morning.
Good morning. We're learning as a schutz for Shlomo Filayin Bas Sarach and for Bas Tzion Bas Chaya. We're at the Mishnah on Daf Pei Gimel Amud Aleph, the last Mishnah, about 10 lines in the bottom. That's the Mishnah. Yom Echad Ha'amur Ba'osav Es Benoi says L'gabi Osav Es Benoi V'Shoy Say Es Benoi L'Sishlu B'Yom Echad. You shouldn't do it on the same day. What does it mean Yom Echad? Hayom Ha'ilach Achar Laila. It means a night followed by a day, which is our traditional Jewish day. It starts at Shkia and ends the following day at Shkia. It says by Ma'aser Bereshis, Vayikra Likim La'Aryam L'Choshech Karla V'Erev Hayibayker Yom Echad V'Erev Hayibayker, for its night followed by day. But everybody says no Yom Echad. My Yom Echad Amar B'Ma'aser Bereshis Yom Hodach Achar La'af Yom Echad Amar B'Yisay Yom Sunay Had Yom Hodach Achar La'ila. We learn from Ma'aser Bereshis that the day means a night followed by a day. Tanarban. Ezudar Shushimin Zaymel. If you should call it in Kula Ein B'Daber Ela B'Kachim. Why do we need to have a pasuk to tell you this? This is the general rule that the day follows the night in a Jewish day. So why would I have thought otherwise? Because, as we've seen, the din of Osav Espanai is right next to the pasuk of Osav Espanai is discussed in the Torah right next to Kachim. Kachim Laila Halachachayim. The Gabi Kachim, we say you shecht it by day, and then you have that night to bring the emurim and to eat it. Yachalav zekein. Maybe Osav Espanai should be treated like kachim. Nemakan yom echad, v'nema b'ma'aser bereshis yom echad. Ma yom echad amar b'ma'aser bereshis. Hayom echad achar halayla. Af yom echad amar b'Osav Espanai. Hayom haylach achar halayla. Rabbi Omer, yom echad, yom hamiyuchad tong krus. He says that there are, when someone sells a mother as well as its offspring, on certain days you have to announce that this is a animal who was already had previously sold the mother or the child, and therefore you have to be careful not to shecht it that day. Like this is the halacha that we spoke about before, that when someone sells, all the way to, I think it was the beginning of the parak, that you have to announce that this is an animal that you can't shecht today. You have to wait till tomorrow. This is where we get the halacha on these 4 days that people generally shech them on that day immediately, because it's Erev Yom Tov. You have to let the person who's buying it know that he's not going to be able to shecht it today because its parent or child was already sold earlier, and it's expected that it was already shechted. Zok the Mishnah. We're moving from Osav Espanai, the Isser, to shecht an animal together with its offspring on that day, with the mitzvah of Kisei Hadam, which is a mitzvah the Torah says, the pasuk says, the Ish v'nei Yisrael, min agar b'saycham, any yid, asher yasud sayid chaya oyef, who will capture a chaya or a bird, asher yachol, that can be eaten, that he's eating, v'shavach es damai b'chiseyu ba'afer, he spills out its blood and he covers the blood with dirt. So there's a mitzvah that when you shecht a chaya and oif, not a behema, but a chaya and oif, there's a mitzvah of kisei adam to cover the blood. Zok the Mishnah. Kisei adam noig ba'aretz u b'chutz la'aretz. It's noig in Eretz Yisrael as well as in chutz la'aretz. B'fnei habayis v'shloi b'fnei habayis. Whether at the time of the Beis Hamikdash or not at the time of the Beis Hamikdash. And Rashi explains that all these things are not really chedushim. This is a regular mitzvah. A mitzvah, unless it's tali ba'aretz, there's no reason to assume it would only apply in Eretz Yisrael. But Rashi says, since we want to say b'chulin avaloi b'mukdashim, which is the next thing, that it only applies by chulin and not by mukdashim, which brings in the discussion of mukdashim, so we say these extra things. So the Mishnah continues, b'chulin avaloi b'mukdashim, the Gemara is going to explain what that means. It's not clear The Pashas, it means that it's you don't have a din of kisei dam when you shech the behema. The Gemara is going to suggest that that's not what it really means. B'noig b'chayu b'oif, it applies to a chaya and an oif, not by a behema. B'mizumen v'she'enim mizumen. Again, this is another thing that's not really relevant here, but it's just we saw earlier that legabe shiluch hakan, when it comes to sending away the bird, the mother bird, it only is by enim mizumen, by a not captured bird. But if you own the bird, then there's no mitzvah of shiluch hakan. B'noig b'koy b'nei shu suffik. We had in the previous parak, a koy is an animal that's a suffik. There were a lot of different shittas about it. The first shitta we saw was a suffik of a goat and a deer. But then we saw that it's a barrier b'fnei atzmai. It's a totally unique animal. But it's a suffik. What its status is, it is considered chayo behema. The ain't sheikh, so therefore you have to cover its blood. They shechna is be yomtiv, but a koy you don't shecht on yomtiv because then you're going to be left in a position where you're not sure if it requires kisei adam, and the act of kisei adam, the pashtus, when you have to dig out dirt from the ground in order to cover it, you're creating a hole and you're being teichen, you're grinding the earth. So therefore you shouldn't shecht on yomtiv a koy because you're going to be left unable to do the kisei adam. And you do shecht it, you're not allowed to do kisei adam because misafik you can't be deicha the Isser Yomtiv. So Mukdash my time alone. Why does the Mishnah say that kachim cannot be brought, don't have a din of kisei adam? So the Mishum de Rav Zera, the Amar of Zera, Hashoichet tzorech sheyitin afer lamata va'afer lamayla. This din of kisei adam, we're talking about covering the blood with offer, with dust, with dirt. That doesn't mean just lamayla. It means you must first put dirt down underneath, put the blood on the dirt, and then put dirt on top. You should you spill out the blood when you shecht, and then you covered be'afar. Afar lo'nema. It doesn't say v'kaseyu offer. You cover it with blood. Ella be'afar, in blood. That tells you it has to be on top and on the bottom. So what's the problem with Mikdashim? And Lagabi Kachim, it's not possible to put offer on bottom. Hey Chaliyavid, what should you do? We're talking the Kachim that you would bring as that you would have an issue of Kisei Adam is only Eifis. There are no Chayas. A Chaya is possible to be brought as a carbon. So the only one is a bird. A bird, you pour out its blood on the mizbeach. So how are you going to do kisei adam on the mizbeach? Leisev v'levatle. If you say put dirt on the mizbeach and then let the dam go on that dirt and then cover that dam, kamoisef habinyan. If you put dirt permanently to stay on the mizbeach, you're adding on to the mizbeach. Uksev hakol b'ksav miyad Hashem. Alay haskell. Everything was written. The entire seder of the binyan of the kalim in the mikdash were all done the way Hashem gave the bina to Betzalel and to Moshe how to do it, and you can't do anything differently. Loy levatle. So you're saying just put dirt there temporarily and then take it off. Kahavi chatzitza. Then it's a chatzitza. If it's not permanent, the Torah, we know that you have to let the dam go on the mizbeach. If you don't let it go on the mizbeach, but rather go on the dirt that's only temporarily on the mizbeach, then the dam is not being done as instructed. The Torah said you have to do it on the mizbeach. So that's the reason why we're asserting, according to Rav Zera, why you can't. Because we're saying according to Rav Zera, you can't have kisei adam for kachim for a knife. So okay, so you're right. It's impossible to put the dirt underneath. But you should still do a kisei dam. Do what you can. Do the part on top. So tomorrow, lamayla afshel yavid kisei. Milay Tanya Rabbi Yosef Yosef Omer shachat chayiv achkachat shachat behema. This is talking about stam, but not in the kachim. But we said that if someone shechted a chaya, which requires kisei adam, but achkach shachet behema, then afterwards he shechted a behema, pata milichsis behema, then pasta milichsis. He can't do kisei because it's already covered with the behema. There's no point in being mechas on top of the blood of the behema. Behema v'aka chaya. If he does a behema, then afterwards he does a chaya. Chayiv lichsis. Then he has to be mechasa on top of the blood of the chaya, which is on top. Even though the chaya's blood was not on offer, it was on top of the blood of the behema. But the Torah was saying you should at least do what you can. If you can only be mechas on top, then you're mechas on top. So why are we saying that it's impossible to do kisei adam by an oif on the mizbeach because you can't put offer lamata? Let's just do the offer lamata like we see when you have the blood of a chaya on top of the blood of a behemoth, that you just do kisei adam on top of the offer, on top of the dam of the chaya. So Gemara Kedir Zeir, the Amar Zeir Kol Roy Labila Bila Makavis Boy Chol She'enu Roy Labila Bila Makavis Boy. This is the old rule, the rule that we've seen a number of times, that while it's true that when you're in a position where the only kisa you could do is offer on top of the dam chay, you go ahead and do it. That's in a case where it's on top of dam behema, but there was no rule that you said that you had to shecht the dam of the chay on top of the behema. So you really could have done it on the earth there, but you just didn't. So there, it doesn't passel the kisi. But on the mizbech, where it's impossible, like we said before, it's impossible to put the offer on bottom. So then that's ma'akev, and it makes it you can't do kisi. Something is impossible, or something is precluded by law or by fact from happening. Then it's ma'akev. The fact that you don't do it takes away the din of kisi. Practical Gemara. But I have another eitzah. You said the problem with being shechting and oif and doing kisi adam on the dam of oif on the mizbeach is because it's impossible for it to go on top of the offer. Why don't you just scrape up the blood and take it somewhere else and put it on top of offer or off the mizbeach? Milay tanan dam, which is very surprising to me that there's such a thing that you could take something off the mizbeach that was required to be put on the mizbeach. But, what do I know? Milay Tanan, the Gemara says, it's not a problem to remove dam in order to be yaitza kisei adam. We say, dam anitis she'ala sakin, when someone shechs a behema not for kachim, stam as a chulin, and the blood spritzes, and it doesn't go into the pit that you would prepare offer for, and dam that remained on the knife, chayiv lichsis. You're mechayiv to do kisei adam on that dam. The blood on the knife, there's no offer there, so you obviously have to scrape it off and put it on the ground. Hachanami nigra v'nachsilei. Why can't you do kisei adam with the blood on the mizbeach? Just take it off and be mechaset. So the Gemara concedes that this whole avenue that we've just pursued, at least for now, the Gemara will return to it later, but the Gemara is saying, for now, that this is not a taka, not a reason. There's no problem with shechting a oif and removing its blood and being machase. But we're not talking about that. We're not talking about shechting an oif as kachim. We're not talking about kachim mizbeach. We're talking about an animal that was not kosher. You're not allowed to give to kosher bedek habayis to be used for the expenses of the Beis Hamikdash. You can't give an animal that's kosher for kachim. But you have an animal, let's say that's puzzle, it has a mum, or it's for some other reason it's not kosher. It's an animal that's not roy to be brought on the mizbeach, like let's say not a Torah or Bnei Yaina, which are the only animals that brought on the mizbeach. So it's brought as bedek habayis. So we're saying that it's so it's not roy to be brought as a it's an animal that you're not right to eat it, right? If it's kosher by the kabayis, it has to be used for bedek kabayis. If you go ahead and shecht it, it's going to be me'ila to use it. You're not allowed to use that which is kaddish for bedek kabayis. The person's not allowed to benefit from it. So it's something that's not roy. And we're going to have a similar machlekes like we had legabe oisev espinoi, that Reb Shimon had said something that is not roy is not not something that a shchita she'ena ruya is not a shchita legabe oisev espinoi. We're also going to say it's not, the two are not connected. This is a shchita of a chaya or an oif that's ena roy, that you're not able to benefit from. Also, is not a shchita legabe the din of kisei adam. So therefore, there's no kisei adam on bedek habayis that you're not allowed to eat. Track the Gemara, why is it not roy? Why can't you be paid it? Bedek habayis, you have an option. You could give money of that's equal its value, and then it's yaitzel Chullin, and you're allowed to eat it. And once you do that, then it's going to be roy, and it's going to be have a din of kisei adam. And the Gemara, being hamad of haracha, being paida, the bedek habayis is not so simple. You can't just say I'm being paida. You have to stand it up in front of a bezdin or in front of a kayin, and they tell you, they make an estimate of how much it's worth. And this is already shechted, so you can't stand it up. Oh, come on. Who is this like? But now you're making a problem. According to Rameh, who says Taka that this Hamad of Aracha is required, and that's the reason why it's impossible and why you can't do Kisei Adam. He says Legabe Kisei Adam that Shchita She'ein Ruya is a Shchita, like we'll see later on. There's going to be a Stam Mishnah that says Shchita She'ein Ruya Shma Shchita. Ikar Shimon Da'amar Shchita She'ein Ruya Lo Shma Shchita. And if you'll say like Rav Shimon, who's Chaylik, like we said, this is the parallel Shita what we said Legabi Oisev Espanai. Rav Shimon also says Shchita She'ein Ruya Lo Shma Shchita Legabi Kisei Adam. Rav Shimon is the mandam who says you don't require hamad of haracha. So according to Reb Meir, it's not a problem if it's Eini Ruya. According to Rav Shimon, it's not a problem of Shchita She'ein Ruya. You don't need hamad of haracha. According to Manav Shach, why can't you be paid it? Each one according to his reason. Rav Yosef Rebbe, v'nasav aliba the Tanoi b'shchit she'ein ruya, v'nasav aliba to Tanoi. Rebbe, it's going to Rebbe, and he holds like he splits the difference between Rav Meir and Rav Shimon. B'shchit she'ein ruya saval Rav Shimon. He holds like Rav Shimon that shchit she'ein ruya doesn't have kisei adam. Hamad of haracha saval Rav Meir. He holds like Rav Meir that you need hamad of haracha. So therefore, there's no way to make a hamad of haracha to make this oif of bedek habayis to make it roy for kisei adam. I guess it doesn't have to be an oif; it could be a behema as well, a chaya as well. V'bay seima kula Rav Shimoni. This is all going according to Rav Shimon, who says that you don't need hamad of haracha. So why can't you be paida this? Let's say this bird and make it and do a kisei adam in it. Even
though he holds
I'm sorry, did I say Hamad of Aracha? Let's say according to he was a cooler of Shimon, he holds that a shchita she'ein ruya, but the problem with
Lo Shma Shchita.
Lo Shma Shchita, but the problem he holds Lo Shma Shchita, right? But we had said
even though he holds that.
But he holds Hamad of Aracha. So why is it a problem according to Rav Shimon? The problem according to Rav Shimon is that why can't you do it? We said you can't do it because of the problem of Hamad of Haracha. You're not going to be able to be paid it. And we said Rav Shimon says you need he says it doesn't need Hamad of Haracha. So according to Rav Shimon,
you could be paid it.
You have a way to be paid it,
right?
And make it a shchita ruya. You always say Makul Rishimini. B'shani Yachad Amakra V'shava V'chisa. Mishain Mechus El Shvicha V'kisi. It has to be that it's immediately available for kisa. Since it requires also the step of padiyah, that makes it that it's not going to have a din of kisi adam. So the Gemara Hashtas lahachi. Once you're saying this, I feel tema kachem mizbeach. Mishin mechos al shvicha v'chisi. Yotzesh mechos shvicha gerira v'kisa. We'll also be able to answer the question that we had said legabi kachem. We said, why can't you move it off of the mizbeach? The answer is, it has to be immediately available for kisui, and this has an extra step that has to be scraped off the mizbeach. Ma baravashi amar amar
Even
krach.
though we do see from the case of the splatter and the
Oh, so
knife.
they asked that why we said on the knife that you can be it.
Right. And the splatter.
Yeah. So the difference is, well, the splatter was not really the splatter we're talking about. It could be splattering onto some other offer. The problem was the knife.
Yeah,
But the knife,
okay.
so the difference is that the knife is not really mechusa scraping. Because there was no need that it had to be on the knife. It's just it happens.
I
So
hear that.
you're just taking it off. Masha Enken over
Okay.
here, where the Torah requires that it be on the mizbeach, that's
Yeah.
called something that's mechusar greira. It's inherently mechusar greira. Um, yeah, I could always count on you. I was thinking if I should say this, and I said, why complicate things? But I guess you do want things to be complicated.
No, it's just that actually this time I've been able to follow the Shakoptaria, so it's like
Right. Yeah, you're always going back to see how we justify what we said before. Maravashi Amar Kra. Chaya oif. Ma chaya ein a kaddish. Af oif ein a kaddish. He says it's a whole different thing. It's not a practical problem of Kisei Adam. It's a limud. The pasuk tells you can't use. There's no Kisei Adam and Kachim because we compare a chaya to oif, and a chaya. There's no such thing as Kachim from a chaya. So to an oif, even though an oif is theoretically possible by a Torah b'nei Yoina to be brought as Kachim, but we learn that from chaya since they're compared. Ima chaya she'en b'mina kaddish. So Zok Gemara, if that's the case, Ima chaya she'en b'mina kaddish, af oif she'en b'mina kaddish, oitzu Torah b'yoyna she'yesh b'mina kaddish. Maybe I should learn it the other way. Maybe I'll say that the Torah is not telling you that an oif, there's no din of kisi adam by, just like chaya can't be kaddish. So to an oif that's kaddish, it doesn't have a din of kisi adam. Maybe it's coming to tell you that there's no, I'll exclude Torah b'nei Yaina, since they're able to be Kaddish, they should have a din of Kisi Adam. Maybe we're excluding those things. Maybe I'm sorry, the other way around. Maybe we're saying that a Torah b'nei Yaina, since they have B'min and Kaddish, it's not like a Chaya, so therefore they should never have a din of Kisei Adam. Even if you bring a Torah b'nei Yaina as Chullin, it should also be excluded. Let's learn it out from Chaya as well. So Gemara, like Chaya, my Chaya, like Chalakta ba, Av Oiv loy tachlik ba. The Gemara says no, Adarabba. We don't just like a Chaya. All Chayas are the same. That they have a din of Kisei Adam. So too, I'm not going to say that some Oifas have a din of Kisei Adam and others don't. Rather, they all have a Kisei Adam, a din of Kisei Adam, but Kachim is excluded. Amalei Yaakov Mina l'Rava. Yaakov Mina said to Rava. What is Yaakov Mina? No, it doesn't say. So Amalei Yaakov Mina l'Rava. Kaimelan
and
Chaye
it says he was
b'chava.
a min. He was a famous man.
He was Taka Min. He was asking a kasha and learning. I don't know.
Well,
Okay.
we've had all these Caesars and the
Yeah, but
asking.
this is like They always ask like hashkafa questions. This is just a kasha and learning. This is just a discussion and learning.
They bring that in the article of it. Apparently he was somewhat learned.
I guess you can talk to a learned man.
You can't be a mean unless you're somewhat learned.
I guess that hey, it could be I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like if well, the truth is, I guess in the seed program, I remember I used to learn with a conservative woman who had questions about it. We learned Gemara. If you want to learn Gemara, we learned Gemara. I guess you can. In any case, he asked the following question: Kamlan chaya b'chlal behema l'simonim. We've learned that the pasuk says the din of where's the pasuk? No, we don't have the pasuk yet. But the dinim of what are the simone kashas on an animal? It says it by a behema, and we learn out a chaya from behema. Chaya is considered like a behema, as we've seen before. The words behema and chaya can include both chayas and behemas. So when we say a behema needs the two simonim needs split hooves and it chews its cud, we say that also includes chayas. When the Torah says chaya or oif, maybe that includes behema as well. It needs kisi adam. Amalei alecha amakra la'artzib shulchanu kamayim. Ma mayim le'boy kisi af hainami le'boy kisi. The Torah says you should pour it out. Rak kadam lo'isechelu al artzib shulchanu kamayim. It says that the guy behema. So it's telling you that it doesn't need kisi just like mayim. Elamayata, effectively more, if you're saying that the dam of a behema is like mayim yat biluboy, maybe it should be kosher as a mikvah, as water from a mikvah. So Gemara Makra ach mayim ubar mikveh mayim yiatar. Hani in midiachrinalai. The Torah says mayim ubar mikveh mayim yiatar. A mayim and bar that are become water, that should be tar. Only water and not other things. Maybe it's only excluding, let's say, wine that's not considered to be water. Aval dam the ikri mayim, but we're saying that the dam of a hema al artzish b'chanu kamayim, it's compared to mayim hachanami. Maybe it should be included as water in a mikvah. So it's more tremi utiksivi. Ma'ayin mayim ubar mayim. The Torah says twice, a spring of water and a pit of water. So that's one is coming to tell you that not just it has to be water connected other mashkim, as well as the dam. Even though dam is compared to water, it has to be bedafka water and not dam of a behem. So tomorrow, maybe both of these psukim are to exclude shar mashkim and not the dam of behem. Because we're mechalik between water that's flowing as well and water that's collected, that they have different dinim legabe that water that's flowing. If you have mayim she'uvim that's flowing, it can be included in a mikvah. But water that's collected in a kli cannot make the water of a mikvah. Mayim ubar mayim and mikveh mayim. We have a third one. It's true. You need two psukim to tell you that shar mashkim are excluded, and then the third one, and one is for mayim zoichlim, and one is for mayim chunasim, and then the third one, mayim mikveh mayim, is to tell you also the dam of a behem, even though it's compared to mayim, it's not going to be machshir mikveh. Tana Rabban, asher yotzid, right? The pasuk said that's the original pasuk of Kisei Adam, the Ish Bnei Yisrael, Min Hagar Agav V'Seichem Asher Yotzud side that will trap a trapping. Chay Yoyef Asher Yachal Chayef that will be eaten. V'Shavach Ezdam V'Chasei B'Af. Asher Yotzud, the pasuk says that you trap Eli El Asher Yotzud Netzudim V'Ayim Me'alein Minayin. How do you know if you have already trapped? You have a deer trapped from beforehand that it still has a din of Kisei Adam, or could go in Oivzim V'Tana Goylim, or if he has geese and chicken that he's raising in his chicken coop, or he has his captive, he has his domesticated, so to speak, chickens and geese. Talmud loy met tzayid. Asher yotzut tzayid, that he traps a trap in mikol makom. The repetition tells you, in any case, it doesn't have to be bedafka that it was actually trapped. Im kemat hameloy asher yotzut. So what is the Torah telling you? Lam the Torah derech eretz. The Torah is telling you how to act. It's coming to tell you don't always eat meat, just like whenever the feeling strikes you. You should only eat it like when you go out and you trap it, which is not so easy to do. It's telling you not to eat meat too often. Now we're going to have a little bit of agadato or advisory Gemara to tell you not to eat too much, too richly. When the Rebbeinu Shalom will expand your boundaries. The Torah is telling you, what is the pasuk? Yachav Hashem lekachas gvulcha kasher dibur lach oichle basar kitav nafshecha lechel basar b'chol avas nafshecha toichel basar. What a person will say, I'm just going to eat whenever I feel like it, and that's not a good thing. Person should only eat it when he has a specific craving for it, which is not all the time. He shouldn't make it that every day for supper he's eating a steak for breakfast, lunch, and supper. So Zakta Gemara, maybe you could just go and buy it from the marketplace whenever you feel like it. There's additional pasuk that's also telling you shouldn't eat so frequently. It's saying don't take all your money and go buy meat. You should only take from what you have a reasonable amount. If you have to take from your own flocks, you're going to be more reluctant to do so. Yachal yizbach kol bikra v'yachal kol tzayin. Rashi says that means even if he only has one bakar or one tzayin, you should go and shecht it and eat the meat. The Torah tells you not to eat everything that you have, but rather to take it slow. Someone who has one mana, he should he should get to eat together with his bread. He should get one serving of vegetables. Asara mana, if he has 10 mana, yikach lepasei litra dagim, he should eat it with fish. Chamisha mana yikach lepasei litra basar, and if he has 50, he should eat a serving of meat. Meya mana yitzu loy kadera b'chol yom, he should make himself a pot of meat every day. Ve'enach, and those who don't say like Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, who don't say these restrictions, when should they eat all these things, vegetables and fish and meat? Me'erev Shabbos la'erev Shabbos. They should just do it. If you don't have Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah's instructions, then you should do it for Shabbos. You should make for Shabbos. Amarav, Shrichen anu lachash l'divrei zaken. Rav says it's important to follow Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah to limit your amount of eating based on how much money you have. Amar of Yechanan, Abba mi mishpachas beriyim hava. Our fathers, of my father, were more robust, and therefore they could go without meat. Someone who has a pruta should use it to buy meat because it's important for your health. People, it was hard to get enough food to keep you going. So he said, if you have an opportunity to get food to keep you going, meat was more robust food, you should do so. Amar Rav Nachman going anu lovin va'eichlin. But in us, that we're even weaker, we have to even borrow money to buy healthy food that will sustain us. So I don't really get much practical instructions over here about what one should do. It seems like we're talking about more legabi being responsible about how much you spend more than the health benefits of not eating too much meat. Right? It was all kafi. It seemed like it was unmitigated good to eat robust food, but a person shouldn't. We're talking about how much you should expend for that. So the pasuk says, "Kvasim l'v'shrecha." Your you should use your wool from your sheep for your clothing. And from the shearings of your sheep, that's what you should wear. Umechir sada, umechir sada. What you sell when you sell your fields, atudim should be used to buy flax. La'olam yimka adam sada v'yikach atudim. A person should sell his fields and buy flax because they'll be able to sustain him. He gets in them wool and he gets milk, and eventually they'll grow and he'll have meat. But he shouldn't sell his flax and buy fields because he's not going to have what to sustain himself from. The pasuk says, "V'dai cholav izim," the insufficient amount of milk from goats. It's enough for a person to get sustenance from the milk of the goats and the kids that are in his house. Continuation of the pasuk, to use it for lechem beisecha. Let's see the whole pasuk. So l'lachmecha, lechem beisecha, lachmecha koydem lechem beisecha. So the fact that the Torah says your lechem comes before the lechem of your beisecha, a person needs to first make sure that he has enough to eat. He's the one who has to go out to work to provide for the family, so he has to make sure he has the strength to work. V'chayim l'narisecha, and life for your daughters. Amar Marzuch Beit Rav Nachman, tein chayim l'narisecha. To give life to your daughters, a person should only give the milk of goats. You shouldn't give his son a rich life, because then he's gonna get spoiled, and then he's gonna make. So if you want them to have life, you have to restrict what they get. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Haroitz, she is aser, someone who wants to become rich. Yasik b'behema daka, you should have small animals. Torah says ashtorei, so we darshan it to mean that it makes a person rich. Okay, we'll stop over here. I didn't realize how late it was. Sorry.
Thank you.